Today we had on Florida real estate legend Shane Burgman. He talks about how he went from being a nuclear missile technician to sitting open houses, how his team does over $75 million a year in real estate, and how he's implemented his skills from the Navy into his real estate business.
The Broke Agent presents Over Ask Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Over Ask. Today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Shane Burgman. Burgman. Our producer spelt it Bergman, and then Shane had a fit because it's Burgman.
That's
right. Shane had a fit. Before we get into this, Shane, I just want you to know I was supposed to have all my brand new appliances delivered today, and I canceled it for right now for this podcast. So just no pressure, but bring the heat.
That's an honor, Matthew.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And it means the world to me, dude. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't bring the heat, I'm going to be pissed. So Shane, you're a top 0.1% Florida realtor with Compass, same brokerage as Eric there, a husband and a father, a U.S. Navy submarine veteran, a gold Addy. Not sure what that is, but Shane, thanks so much for being on the program.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys reaching out and allowing me to share the platform with you. I've been a follower for quite a while, and it's something that it is truly an honor to be with you guys on this. It's kind of a different take because normally it's like on the other side where I'm watching you guys and then your guests, and actually like standing here with you is just pretty awesome. So thank you.
Of course. So let's get into it. For people who may not know you, can you kind of give us your elevator pitch real quick?
Yeah. It's a tough one. So a lot of thoughts have kind of been in my head about how is the best way to introduce myself to someone that has no idea who I am. And I think that what I always go back to is real estate is a really fascinating industry because most of us that do real estate have done other things before real estate. And I think that's what builds the character of who we are as a realtor, and then also how we, present ourselves in real life. So you kind of touched on some things. I am a family man. I have two young boys, a 3 and a 1.5-year-old. I have a wife, and I served 10 years active duty in the United States Navy in the submarine force. So a very elite branch of the Navy, and something that has really, I think, carved the way that I operate and the way that I function in the real estate space. And then I've been able to take a lot of those skills and a lot of the way that I communicate and a lot of the systems that I operated with in the military and apply it to real estate.
You are a nuclear mechanic, right? A nuclear technician on submarines. So
yes, so a missile technician, not a
missile technician. Okay, so tell us kind of what that is, and then how you get into real estate from working on not nuclear submarines, but mechanical.
Well, they were nuclear submarines.
Okay, they were nuclear.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a lot to unpack there, and I could literally talk about this for hours, and I won't. But so we have a submarine force, which most people are kind of aware that we have submarines, but they have no idea like how many, and then also the capability of the submarines. Most people, when they think submarine, they're thinking Hunt for Red October, and the submarine just shitting out of the water, and that's
exactly what I
submarine.
think.
It's cool. That's a class of submarine. That is a submarine, but it is not all the submarines. And so I was on the opposite kind of submarine, where it's a ballistic submarine. They call them. They're longer. They're slower. They're not as agile, but they carry a shit ton of nuclear warheads on them. 24 missiles to be exact. Each missile can hold a lot of warheads. These are things I won't get into sensitive information about, but that's why those submarines are different. So essentially, the largest defensive and deterrent military force that the United States has is the submarine force. And I don't think people know that because our motto is the silent service. It's not only silent because we're in the depths of the ocean, you can't hear us when we approach, but also people don't talk a lot about submarines because they're not that sexy. It doesn't seem like a really great atmosphere because it's not, but it's the main reason why there aren't other countries that want to fuck with us, because we have so much payload and so much firepower to literally destroy the earth hundreds of times over. It's quite interesting. If you can Google a lot of the information about the submarines we have and the warheads, that one single warhead, the kind of destruction it can do. But it's very amazing stuff. And that was my job for 10 years. So those were my babies, the warheads. the missiles. I worked on them. We would do test launches. We've never done a real launch, because if we did, it would literally be nuclear war, and the Earth would be destroyed. It would be a really bad day. But we have this as essentially a deterrent to prevent other countries from declaring war on us, because it's kind of like that little, big dick competition is what it is. So USA says, we've got all this shit. If you want to fuck with us, this is what we have.
Submarines also do look like dicks, so that is the perfect
and the warheads
analogy.
are very phallic shaped. The missile itself is did you guys follow space at all? Like, are you remotely familiar with
I know the planets.
I look up at the stars every now and then.
Tucson, actually, where we're both from, Shane, has one of the best observatories, right? Because the sky is so clear in Tucson. So clear. I did used to go to that, not Space Museum, but the U of A telescope place.
On A Mountain, right?
No.
You see the Northern Lights from there, Eric?
Probably.
That clear?
I don't know. You could see.
It's super clear. I do miss
the
that
Milky Way.
The desert. It's amazing.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So what about space, Shane?
Well, so I was making the comparison. So like right now, like where I live in Florida, it's called the Space Coast. Literally, our county is called the Space Coast. We have the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. We have NASA over here. So we're launching rockets with satellites and other payloads almost weekly. It's one of those things we kind of take for granted. But I was trying to make the comparison to the same way that those are launched. It's the same way that a missile is launched. So it breaks out in the phases. It's shot from under the water, which is the main difference between a missile and what we're shooting up into space. But the science is essentially the same. So it was one of those. I was trying to make a connection, if you guys followed space and understood that. But a lot of people don't understand how missiles work, especially when you're at 100 feet under the surface of the ocean.
What are you talking about right now?
We should get some like question bubbles or inner thoughts as he's talking.
It's just like I start muted out. Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
It is a super complex subject. It's hard to kind of boil down to a couple idiots. But ultimately,
a couple of fools. Okay.
So what you're saying though is like, from your past career, real estate's a fucking walk in the park. I mean,
you went from protecting the realm of the world to sitting open houses. What caused this transition? What made you want to do this?
So to go back to what Matt was saying, it's all about perspective for me. So I know that what I did before real estate was much more difficult, was much more strenuous, and was much more challenging, not only on my mind, but also on everyone else involved in my life. It's very difficult to have a family when you're in that kind of atmosphere, because we're deployed so frequently, and we could be deployed at any given moment. And then we come back and we're just supposed to like jump into the lives of our family. It's very, very challenging. So that perspective of that life into real estate, like even on a most stressful day in real estate, I'm always thinking, well, fuck, it could be a lot worse. And I'm always thinking about the days underway and how monotonous. And I mean, timing even on a submarine is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what time of day. I don't even need to carry a watch because it's the same routine all the time. So for me, it's all about perspective. So whether it was real estate or any other like job, I think I would have that same perspective and I would perform well at it because of perspective. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So your first clients, when you decide to get your real estate license, you are a military relocation practitioner or professional, right? So is this where all your first clients came from? Is from people, not being deployed, but going into different areas, and however that works? You could word it way better than I can. That was a disastrous way, but
so my actual first client was through an open house. I held an open house for my broker, and I've always been into data and statistics, and I knew I had about a 1% chance of scoring a buyer that I would be able to represent to sell that condo. And sure enough, I had 3 people come in, and it was the second group that came through. She ended up buying this condo, and it was about 6 months into my career. I had not had a sale before then, and at month 6, I sold that condo, and then the rest of the 6 months ended up selling about $3 million in real estate. So like my career picked up, but it had some lag time. But after that first open house, a lot of it was from my sphere. So a lot of it was from military members that I had either served with, at the base where I separated from, or in other parts of the country that were transferring to where I was at. Because the reason I'm here on the Space Coast is because of the military. The military transferred me here in 2011 to do a shore duty. So the Navy has a rotation of sea to shore. So you'll be deployed on a like in the sub world, we'd be on an active submarine for 4 or 5 years, and then we would rotate to a shore facility for 3 or 4, and then do that until you retire or separate. So my second tour was here as a shore duty, but I would still be deployed a ton. We worked with the UK a lot, but we have a small Navy installation here up at the Cape. So it's called Cape Canaveral. So I was stationed here. I spent my last almost 5 years active out of the Cape. And then I knew I wanted to separate, and ended up separating from the Navy, and then stayed here, planted roots. So, have the kids, have the wife, but still there are people transferring here, and the submarine community is very small. And, you have a reputation. It's either going to burn you or people are always going to use you. And I've fortunately had a really great reputation. And when I was in the service, and then also being able to assist those men and women that are still serving as their real estate professional.
So how do you get that designation? Is it given to you by the National Association of Realtors to be an MRP? Do you have to apply for it? Do you have to be a veteran? How does that work?
No, so that one, so to get that alphabet soup on the back of my signature, the military relocation professional, that was a class through NAR. So I can't remember how many hours it was, but you essentially take that class, take a test, and then they give you the accreditation or the designation of that. There are a lot of agents. Next time you get an email or an offer from an agent, look at their signature, because people love to brag about APR, older person specialist, buyer specialist, listing specialist, whatever it is. For me, I don't really care about all those. The military one was the designation I really wanted because of the logo. And then also just kind of reconfirming to the people I work with that I am the best fit for you if you are in the military.
There's an older person specialist?
Yeah. Yes.
The
Yeah,
hell?
I do not want that.
No,
That's-
who sounds insane.
In Florida,
So-
I feel like that would work.
Actually, that's very true. So kind of walk us through your first year. You separate, you get into real estate. What are you doing that first year to generate business? And what are you doing? Any lead gen? Is it just all people you had already known? What does that look like?
So first year was kind of, I think, like most new real estate agents, where you're not really sure what to do, right? So at that time, so this was in 2015 when I got my license, I went through a training program that was the first of my it was my first brokerage. I was a Remax agent for a couple of years. They created a training program for me, and basically I shadowed another agent that was successful, and he taught me how to write deals, how to kind of prospect, but not a lot, and then just how to understand the contracts. But my broker kept telling me, there are 3 ways to generate business. It's cold calling, door knocking, pop buys. And I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? And so then she's like, oh yeah, you just go knock on a random stranger's door and see if they want to buy or sell. There were scripts. Back then it was like Mike Ferry. I remember having which is Tom's father, if you guys didn't know that. I had this.
We did. We knew that.
We know. We're not complete.
Yeah.
We don't know about space. We know
Yeah.
fucking Tom Ferry's dad.
Yeah, exactly.
his
We don't know the moon circulating around Uranus, okay?
Yeah.
But we know who Tom Ferry's father is.
But I had CDs that I would listen to in my car, and I was listening to Mike Ferry about his scripts and all this shit. And I did it. I would canvass my old neighborhood, and I would walk, door to door, and I would, kind of give them a script, hey, I just moved to the area. If you know anyone looking to buy or sell, whatever the script was at the time. And then I would hold a shit ton of open houses. And I did that for several months. And at the same time, I also purchased a real estate sign business. So I purchased this company where, the signs they put in the front yard where you dig the hole and you got that sign. There's actually a service that offers that. So I bought a company, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to buy this company. I'm also going to install signs, and I'll do real estate. And then I'll probably catch a buyer that's coming through. They're seeing me put that sign in the yard. Long story short, that never happened. But the best thing that happened during that business is that I would drive around a lot. I had this old Toyota T100, which was like the predecessor to the Tundra, badass truck. And I would put the posts in the back of my truck and all these sign panels, and I would fly through podcasts. And I finally stumbled upon this podcast by Ryan Fletcher. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was a former copywriter. He did this real estate podcast called Agent Marketing Syndicate. And I started listening to it, and it just captured me. It's one of those things that I buy his books, and I was one of those oh man, I can't share this with anyone because there's so many gems in here. It was so good. It was such a different approach to what Mike Ferry and all these the guru parties were offering. And Ryan Fletcher has a big problem with he calls them the guru party. So he refers to Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry as the guru party, the guys that are saying the same shit, make your calls. Ryan's fuck that. There's such a better and different way for other people. And then that book really gave me the confidence and the encouragement to find these other ways to do it. And some of the first things I started doing was I created a newsletter, which was something Ryan talked a lot about in the podcast. He talked about building a community and talked about just being different, like being someone that you can view and someone's like, that guy's doing something different. I either align with it or don't. And that was something that resonated with me because that's a lot like my personality. You either love me or hate me. There's not much in between for most people. And at that point is when I essentially got really into video and doing things as far as content to create my community.
To be clear, you are a Tom Ferry coaching client now.
I am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just making sure. We'll touch into that too. I know. I think Jason
I
Pantana
have
is your
a
coach.
ton of respect for Tom Ferry, Jason Pantana, that
friend of the
whole
show.
crew.
Friends of the
But
show,
it's very ironic, I think, that one of the first real estate podcasts I ever listened to was someone that was anti that party. But now I can appreciate both, and I've merged them both.
So we just talked to Ken Pozak, who has an 18,000 person email list that he's developed in like a year just from YouTube. So what was your initial email like that you were sending out, and how were you getting people besides just the open houses and, you know, clients you've spoken to?
So at the time we had it was still at Remax, and I can't remember the lead generator they had, but essentially I was building out kind of a database. And then I also had taken every person that I knew and asked them for their email and added them to this MailChimp email list. Started off with like 150 people and it grew slowly over time, but I had and ended up ending that list around 800 or 900 people. And I did this for 2 years straight, where every morning at 5 o'clock, I'd go to Starbucks and I was the first one there always. I'd bring my computer and I would just write. I would write content about my life. And I would structure the bulletin. I call it the Burgman Bulletin. I love alliteration, but I would essentially talk a little bit about real estate and a lot about my life and my family and current events and things that are happening. And then I would also give some advice on restaurants and things to do for people that didn't really know the area. And I published that every week. And the open rate was incredibly high. I was always averaging between 40 and 50%. So for a real estate agent to do a newsletter, I think the open rate on average is less than 20%. It's like 18, I believe. So I had extremely high open rate and tons of responses. And it just allowed me to kind of build connections and relationships with people that I didn't really care if they were looking to buy or sell, but I was thinking long-term. You know, it was my first year in real estate. I had no expectation of these people work with me because I didn't know shit. And then also, like, I'm a long play kind of guy. So now, 7 years in the real estate, I'm doing deals with people that I initially started talking to 7 years ago through that newsletter. And then my list has also compounded exponentially, as well as my volume in sales.
So with this email, you said you were talking about stuff like personal stuff that was going on in your life. Are you updating them on like what's going on with your family or just thoughts you had on the market? Like what aspect of your personal life are you including in these emails? Because I've never heard that take before. Usually it's just the restaurants, the listings, but that's a really cool aspect that probably made it way more personal.
It made it extremely personal because the first people that knew that I proposed to my wife were my newsletter people. And then I put it on social.
Right.
The first people that knew that we were pregnant was my newsletter. And then, of course, family knew, but the second tier of people were through the newsletter. But anything like that, major milestones, or just like thoughts that I had or things that I'm training for, just, I even started, are you guys familiar with the platform Medium?
Yeah. I used to write on Medium. I used to write cryptocurrency blogs on Medium.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
Yeah.
What happened to your crypto portfolio? Is that
How's
still
that looking?
going strong? Or?
You know how it's going.
All right, keep going, Jade.
But I've always been, I liked writing about personal stuff. And I think what people understood was like, I'm naturally not a great writer. I write from my heart and it's not perfect. My punctuation was oftentimes wrong. And the structure of my paragraphs and sentences were, incorrect from a grammar perspective, but people could feel like the genuine raw writing of it. And I was like just pouring my heart out and just like sharing thoughts about what it's like transitioning from the military into the civilian world, what it's like, being in this career where I literally, went from a 10-year where I had a paycheck on the 1st and 15th, no matter what, I could blow through all my cash and then live on dollars. And then I don't give a fuck because I'm getting paid on the 15th, to a world now where like, if I don't sell anything, I'm like, I have nothing. So like that transition is challenging. I knew there were people out there that either wanted to jump into that transition, but they're scared because in the military, they don't necessarily always encourage us to get out. They want to retain us. And it's always like, oh no, you're not going to succeed outside of the military. It's this big, scary world. You don't want to do it. And there are people that don't do it because they're afraid. And so I wanted to provide encouragement for that. Also, like, let people know like what it's like. I'm having a kid and, I'm writing an email to my son every day and like all this little shit that I think people really appreciate it. And it shows, it humanizes you.
Definitely.
behind a newsletter, which typically they're not very personal, and I wanted to make it different.
Yeah, I like the aspect of you adding in all your clients manually too. We're starting to do that now with our broke agent list, with our BAM list. Is anyone that emails us, anyone that we've had on the podcast, we're finally manually now putting them in. And this is something we should have been doing a long time ago. But every
Right.
day, if you're talking to 5 or 6 people via email, those are people going straight into your email list. And instead of having to do these ebooks or these big email grabs or these webinars or something like that, it's just you could build that list daily just by the people you talk to.
For sure. And I take the same approach now with our CRM, where like my team, I encourage them. Everyone is in my CRM. My mother is in my CRM.
Right.
Every fucking person I touch,
Am I
use,
there?
use BoomTown, by the way, for your CRM.
Yeah, am I in there? Or how's that
You
going?
are. Both of
Okay.
you
I'll
are.
unsubscribe. But
Thanks, man.
that's
I
all right.
appreciate it.
I had a really good newsletter my first year in real estate. Legit, I didn't. I stopped doing it because someone yelled at me.
Why
What
does
they
it
yell
yell
Responded
at you?
and yelled at, because I would do these things with the team I was on. I would farm like a very specific area, like a neighborhood, and then I would get people's emails by saying like I give like these really raw kind of reports of homes. I go see the houses in the neighborhood, and then like I do a write up. I show pictures and I do a write up of like what I liked about the house and like what I really fucking hated, and I went like really hard in what I hated. And then people just started getting mad because I went so hard,
Oh,
because
man.
some of them were still listed. So then I
Someone
was, I guess, skewing people's
Yeah.
decision
Just
to go
shitting on other
see.
people's listings.
Thanks.
I can see why other agents would get upset with
But,
it.
but
Yeah.
I was growing my list. No, it was just some random person on the list saying, I said it was outdated because it had these like dark wood cabinets, and it was like this old guy, and he fucking reamed me in an email, and I got scared and I stopped.
Should
You
have
should have kept
unsubscribed
doing
them.
that. Yeah.
I know it
that-
was good. I could have had
Getting the
something there.
email replies from a mass email is one of the best feelings
It is.
in the world. No, I'm just kidding. It's obviously not, but it is a great
Second
feeling. Like we encourage people to reply like at the end of the email saying like, reply with your thoughts on this. Obviously not as vague as that, but that's when it's really like struck a chord with them, is when you're sending it out to, 50,000 people and 100 of them actually respond to the email, even though they know it's a mass email. That's when
Right.
you got something going.
Well, that's when you
Yeah.
know like your copy is really good too. And you
Yep.
like Eric, you're a fantastic copywriter. I don't know if you write all
Thank
the
you.
copy for your stuff, but you're extremely talented, and you make it to where it's easy to read, understand, comprehend, and then also like makes it feel like it's personal. You've definitely built that skill over time, and that's a skill that's very, very challenging to create.
Thank you. Yeah, the email open rate is such a fun thing to toy with and
Mhm.
see what sort of subject lines you could do, what sort of secondary subject lines, how many emojis, what time do you send it out? Like,
Yep.
with MailChimp, we're always looking at the optimization and to see what's the best time to send it out, because they have this timer basically. And sometimes it's 7 Eastern, sometimes it's 1 Eastern. And we're always peppering in different things. Like, do we use more text in our blocks? Do we use different text for the buttons? Do we have 8 things in the email? Do we have 2 things in the email? Like, we're constantly tinkering around with this stuff. And now our open rate is like sometimes 43, 44% for
That's
a list to agents, which is bananas.
And I think the what we realize is the things that I'm in, the open rate fucking goes through the roof. Like if there's a picture of me,
Yeah,
it's
it's guaranteed.
It's like 78%.
You put Leonetti in the title. No, but actually, if you put Gary Keller in the title or housing market doom, these sort of subject lines
Yeah.
obviously perform very well,
Yeah.
even though they're kind of
Clickbaity.
clickbaity. But
You have to though.
You have to be clickbaity. Like it's content production, right? Like people get pissed at these doom and gloom headlines,
Yep.
but we are refuting some of them in the content. But if you don't do that, you're not going to get the people to actually open your email.
What I would do though is like go like really hard, like all the really big, like like Unilad and like those big
Mhm.
news outlets. Like I'd write like headlines like millennials offended by the home buying process, like
Right.
something like and then
Like
just
elite
have
daily headlines.
yeah, that's so. It's like, why the fuck are people offended? Because a lot of the stuff that people are offended about is created by media, obviously. Like no one's actually offended by the fucking new Katy Perry song or whatever, but people like find one person who tweeted it and then have a whole story on it.
Right.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I thought
Thoughts,
that was
Shane?
a good. I thought that was a good point, but I'll just
Well, I
go
wish you
fuck
still did your
myself.
newsletter, man. You should bring that back, I think, and maybe
I could
you now
now.
have,
It's totally on brand if I did that
yeah,
now,
yeah.
and
I think
just like if
you
people
probably have
replied,
agents that would like want you to write shit about their listing because it would just help get a little bit more exposure.
Or do video critiques of their listing. That could be good too.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
it's
with a
just
green screen thing
hard
on
with like
Instagram, you could.
clients and stuff.
Yeah.
Like no one wants to hear their house is shit,
Yeah, that's true.
and that's like, I mean, a lot of people want to hear a house is shit, but no one wants to hear their house is shit.
Right.
That's the problem. But Shane, you're 7 years in now.
Mhm.
Okay, what are you still doing to generate leads? What's your number one source of lead generation right now?
My sphere, and I've always been probably at least 50% of my business has been my sphere. This year, it's going to make up closer to 60. And I think that comes with nurture, and it's not nurture in the format of a drip campaign. I think those are sleazy unless they're written really well. For whatever reason, agents really want to do these drip campaigns, and I think it's fucking awful to do that to someone where you just set it and forget it, and you got this 21-step drip campaign where it's like it's just a way to touch them, but it's doing the opposite of it.
It's awful to do that to
It's
someone.
awful, but it's like it's highly encouraged and advised by coaches and
Yeah.
even like our CRM, right? Follow up boss, like they have pre-built drip campaigns, and
Called
agents
BoomTown now. Yeah.
agents like go fucking nuts over that, and I'm just like, it's really doing the opposite effect of what you think it is. So nurturing for me is writing these personal emails. It's doing individual videos for my clients. It's reaching out. It's doing client events. It's giving back to the community and inviting people to exclusive events, and just like keeping really close to people. You don't need this massive database to do a ton of business. I mean, if you have 100 true fans, like you'll be okay. That's really what it is. 100 true fans, meaning those people are going to work with you and they're going to refer their business with you. But that's really all you need is a group of 100 people that say you're the best motherfucker they're ever going to work with. That's it. It's not about quantity. For me, it's quality over quantity in every facet of my life. Same with the people that I keep close to my business and to my heart.
I've found that too. Going that extra mile, people really notice that.
They do, and
They really do. And it's like because you make people almost feel like they're not important or like they're robots when you get those big campaigns where it's just like a touch thing. When you like personalize and they can tell it's personalized, it's going to take you a bit longer, but people can feel it.
And it's such an interesting thing because it like almost feels like it goes against my human nature to want to compliment someone and want to be positive. It's something I've had to train my mind to do, because it's very quick for me to jump on social media and see someone post something, or whether it's a sale or a video, and then I'm like, fuck dude, that should have been my client, or fuck man, I could have done a better video than that. Like that's my initial thought, but I have to like remind myself, like I should be really happy for that person, really proud for that person. So then I like go out of my way to make sure that they know that, and I want to be genuine about it. And I think what I'm doing is I'm slowly training my mind to reverse that, to where when I see someone's success, I want to be their number one success. I want to be like, fuck yeah dude, you did, like that's amazing, you deserved it. Like, but I don't think that comes natural for a lot of people. And I'll fully admit that that's not natural for me to do. And I've had to slowly train my mind to want to do that. And every morning during my morning routine, I always talk about the things I'm grateful for and the things that inspire me. And then I always tell myself I need to reach out to at least 3 people today and just drop them a compliment. Just simple, like out of the blue, like, hey, saw this, hope you're doing awesome. That was amazing. Or super proud of you. Thanks for your friendship. Whatever it is, like I make sure that I do that every single day. And that doesn't take much time to send someone a quick note or a quick little video, but it could potentially change the fucking trajectory of their entire day, their week, the rest of their life, right? You never know what spot that person's going to be in. They could be in a really dark space. And if they just hear one positive, encouraging, sentence from you, like that could fucking alter someone's life. And I don't think enough people understand the power of what we have as humans when we're on the positive versus the negative.
Can you start doing that to me, please? I need something like that. Next time you're at Starbucks at 5 a.m., text me a positive affirmation, because I'm in need of that. I do completely agree with you. I feel like realtors especially are jealous. I'm a jealous person. I feel like in this competitive social media environment and real estate environment, it sucks when you see another agent get a listing in your office. And you're like, how the hell did that person get that listing? That person's a moron. I'm 10 times better than them. And there is this constant like anger and hatred and clients who ditched you and ghost you and stuff. So it is important to reach out to people and do something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
Is it jealousness though, or is it competitiveness?
Competitiveness is good for
Yeah,
sure. Like
for sure.
competitiveness like elevates everybody around the industry. Like if you see an agent in your office that's crushing it, I think that jealousy, yeah, I guess they're kind of intertwined in a way. But
Like when I see a listing that I thought should have been mine, I don't blame that person. I've never blamed that person. I blame myself for not doing enough. And that's like the competitive nature in me. I'm a
how
like
do you get better?
extremely competitive person. And with like video too. I always talk about that. Like
Mhm.
now that there's so much real estate comedy, if I see a great video, I'm happy that's a great video and good for them. But now it's like, okay,
How do I step
hold on and watch this.
up?
Like I get very competitive, and that's I think super healthy to a point. I mean, sometimes I lose my mind, but I'm not very. I don't think I'm. Yeah, it's weird. It's like a fine
I
line.
think, yeah, it's a
Jealousy and
delicate line to
competitiveness.
balance. I do think most people comes from jealousy. For me, it's jealous. I'll be transparent about that. It's oftentimes jealousy or envy, where I see that and immediately I'm like, shit, yeah, I could have done that or done this. But then another thing I've been doing is when I see another agent, like maybe it's a listing that I competed for and I went in and the seller chose another agent. Initially, I'm like, why the fuck would they go with that person? Like that's my neighborhood. I know this shit. But then I step back and I'm like, okay, they didn't choose that agent because of me. They chose that because those sellers thought in their best interest was to hire that person. So I should be supportive of that. And then also what it allows me to do is it frees up my time to identify clients that are a good match for me. And then I move on. Like that's it. I spend that much time. Fuck, this sucks. Oh, cool. And then I'm out. It took me 7 years and I'm still improving that. But a really good analogy I like to use in the real estate world is because that happens. I don't get every listing I go on. I have a very high conversion rate, but I don't get every single one. And in sports, one of the team members that we have, his name is Jeff Blackstone. And he said something to me that really resonated. He's like, because he was a baseball coach forever before he got into real estate. And he's like, you can always tell the best athletes for the ones that are going to go further than the ones that don't. And it's generally how quickly they can recover from an error. And he like just left it at that. And I thought about it and I applied it to real estate. And so I apply an error as not getting that listing, maybe not getting the contract, whatever it is. And now in my mindset, I have to quickly move on, improve, look at it, digest the film, and then go on and proceed and get better. The agents that can get over that quicker are the ones that are more successful. And I bet if you ask 10 of the top producers, how quickly they can get over an error like that, they're going to tell you, I don't even think about it. Does it goes in one ear and out the other? I bet you that would be the case. But it's people that think about it, dwell on it, go in a really dark space, get depressed over because they missed out on a listing. It's like you're fucking taking time away from what you actually need to be doing. And then your whole energy is off. And then when you go on that next appointment, like people can read body language, read energy. They're not going to want you. And you go down this awful trajectory of just like fail. So, moving on for me was something that I had to establish quickly.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, the more at bats you have, for another sports analogy, whether it's content or listing appointments or whatever, the better. That's why, if you have an email that sucks or a YouTube video that sucks or a podcast that sucks or a post that doesn't do well or something like that, you learn from it and you're like, okay, that sucked. Why did it suck? But I'm posting another one tomorrow. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. And
the more at bats you get, the more chance you have for virality, the more chance you have to reach people and to not base your entire livelihood around it, which is what a lot of people do for sure, which, I've definitely
what we did for a long time.
Yeah. So let's talk about the team. So you're on Carpenter Kessel, right?
Yes.
I think 20 plus agents on that team. Why did you join this team? Why aren't you solo? And what do you like being a part of this massive team that's crushing it in Florida? Matt, what kind of things stand the test of time?
Beats me, Eric.
Well, I got a list for you right here. Twinkies, J-Lo, Ben Affleck, diamonds, the Beatles. You could add your real estate success to that list when you partner with BoomTown, the #1 user rated real estate CRM in the game.
BoomTown was built to drive sustainable long-term success, Eric, no matter the market. So if you're ready to put your best foot forward and build a real estate business that can stand the test of time, visit BoomTown, ROI.com/overask. Plus, see how you can score $750 in free digital advertising now. Now that's BoomTown, ROI.com/overask.
Okay. So a few questions there. So I joined Carpenter Kessel 5 years ago. So as it stands, I am the longest living team member on there that's not a team lead. Typically in a team world,
Longest living? Are they killing them off there? What's going on over there?
longest tenure, longest,
Okay.
I
There we
don't know,
go.
guy that's been around the longest on the
There's a bunch of 17-year-olds on that team.
but there's actually two of us that have been there close to 5 years, and the retention on our team is extremely high. And in most team atmospheres, it's like churn and burn. You're looking at 12 months. You get a team member go on, they fucking realize that the leads aren't what they thought, or when they're getting no support, and then they go look for greener pasture. And it's a cycle that happens. But our team has been able to retain a very exclusive amount of agents, and we have 20, but we don't have 20. So we have Compass, as you know, Eric, is territorial in all aspects of the name, but specifically in our region, there's only one Compass name, and we have our team nestled underneath Compass, and then we have a separate team that's Compass. The separate team that's Compass is not actually our team; it's a separate entity. Our team makes up. There's about 12 of us that sell. Then we have 8 on the support side, and that includes transaction managers. We have 2 of those. We have a listing manager. We've got a marketing director. We have an in-house kind of assistant for all of us, and then there are other assistants for other teams. So there's actually 12 of us that sell on that team. And to give you more context around that, out of the 12 of us this year, we'll sell about 300 million in our county, where the median sales price is 350,000. So it's a ton of.
How many units is that?
That's a lot. It's a lot of units. We also have the luxury space, so we have about 25% of the luxury share. So that makes up a good portion of our volume. But we'll sell between probably, I don't know, 250 to 350 units.
So your luxury is what, like 1.2?
I've seen something like 2.5, 3 million, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. We have luxury down here. Let's see. Dwayne, my team leader, just double-sided a $6 million deal. So it's a fucking.
Jesus.
It's one of the highest sales prices, if not the highest. I hope he doesn't watch this, because he's like, Shane, you better fucking know this. It's like I think the highest sales price in our county, and so we're not California. Like $6 million is a ton of money on this coast, where most of the luxury space starts at about $1.5 million. And then you see up to like 3 million. So somewhere in that realm is considered luxury. We've got oceanfront condos that are still trading for $1 million or $1.2 million, somewhere in that ballpark. And then you have the single families that are going to be $1.5 million. But if it's on the ocean, it'll probably have a 2 in front of it.
That's
so we own almost, we're a dominant luxury space. We're also dominant inland and kind of just throughout the county. So our county is very interesting. It's 72 miles long. So we cover the whole county, which is kind of different for a lot of other agents, where in California, for example, like their counties are fucking massive. So they like work on a single space or a city in that county, where we are full county and it's a ton of cities. But essentially ended up joining that team 5 years ago. They came after me and recruited me. I was year 2, had just closed around 5 million in production. And I had done a deal with my now team lead, and we did this deal together. And during inspections, he like reaches out to me and he was like, hey, let's go get some coffee. And I was like, oh shit, like the goat of real estate is about to bring me to coffee and tell me how the fuck this transaction is going to go. So I like went in like, man, I'm like stretching, I'm flexing, I'm ready to go, thinking it's going to be a battle. And we go there, and he was just like, hey man, like we've been tracking your progress, we've been seeing your transactions. You've done a really, really great job with this transaction. Your communication is on point. You've only been in business 2 years. He's like, we want to offer you a job on the team. I was like, what? It's like, to give you more context, Carpenter Kessel is the number 1 team in the Space Coast, and we're top 5 in the state of Florida. And we compete with Miami, Orlando, like massive cities where our team is extremely dominant. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys offered me a job. So I thought about it, and it was not an initial yes. It was one of those, okay, well, I got to make sure it's for the right reasons, and not just because like it's the flash of luxury. Because I felt like I was going to lose a lot of my blue collar type of military people. Because once I put luxury on my email signature, like the people are going to think that I won't work with them because they're not luxury, because they're a $200,000 or $300,000 home. So I was really fearful of that. And then I also had to look at the splits and all these other things. And fast forward a couple of weeks, I ended up going back and asked a few questions, and said, yeah, I'll join the team. And that was in December of 2017. where I joined Carpenter Kessel. And I've been with them ever since. And over the time, the team has grown. At that point, there was 5 of us that sold, and we were doing 120 or 130 million, I think, at that point. And my production had went from 5 to 7 or 8. And then the next year did 12, and then it was 20. And then last year I did 29. And this year I'll do 40. So each year, like, they've armed me with the tools, armed me with the resources, and armed me with the knowledge to actually be a luxury agent and a high performing, efficient luxury agent, which is different. And they've also encouraged me to start my own team under the umbrella of their team, which is a little bit more complicated.
Oh, that's cool though. I mean, it
That's
seems like
cool,
you have a lot of freedom to do what you need to do. I mean, Carpenter Kessel, I mean, kind of sounds like it's some guy who's going to build me a fucking table, but I mean, if they got the luxury space on hold, I like what you said. That resonated with me. Was like the luxury kind of lose your blue collar, because I don't know if you know, I'm with the agency, friend of the show, the
Never heard
entire
of 'em.
brokerage.
Never heard.
Yeah, the agency. Yeah. But that was something I went through as well. But I kind of like that, like, challenge almost of maybe making luxury more accessible, or just a little more, I don't know, like
For
more
me,
like me. I like the contrast of me and luxury.
well, and yeah, I mean, we're the guys that don't typically fit in that box of luxury. Like, I have tattoos. I roll up to my listing appointments in a t-shirt, but I'm very well spoken. I know the data better than anyone else. And I might be the good fit for you. I might not be. But something that, when I had this fear 5 years ago, I was talking to Dwayne, it's Dwayne Carpenter and Kirk Kessel. They're it's the last names that make up the team.
Yeah.
So I'm
It's like
talking
a
to Dwayne,
lawyer's
like
firm, I like it.
a law firm.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to Dwayne about this concern. I was like, man, I'm really concerned about losing out on my military people. I don't ever want them to think that I sold out, went to the luxury side, the dark side, because like those are the people that I actually love to be around. I like people with tattoos that drink whiskey, that fucking swear like sailors. Like, I don't necessarily want to always be in this like luxury space. And he's like, look, man, he's like, it's a lot easier to sell down than it is to sell up. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, once you have the luxury space, like, and people know that, like, they're going to trust you to do that. And it's a lot easier for someone that's at the lower tier of that to say, well, fuck, he's selling $2 million homes. Absolutely. He can work with me. And it was the exact opposite thought that I had in my mind. Trusted him. And then moving forward, I mean, my sales will kind of speak for themselves, but I still represent a ton of blue collar sales. I mean, I'll sell 70 homes this year, and they're all not luxury. There's maybe 20% that are going to be over $1 million. The rest, they're all that 300 to 600 range.
Right. How much emphasis do you put into like looking the part, what you drive to I know so many people get caught up in that, and I just want, I don't know, people to hear it from someone who's really doing it. Like, does that matter as much as people think? Like, pulling up to a $2 million listing, do you need to have a Mercedes, or can you pull up in a RAV4? Does that, does that matter at the end of the day? Do you think?
I think it does. It's not the answer you probably wanted me to say, or even it feels like I shouldn't, but I think it does. I do think there's a stigma, and there's a perception behind that. When it comes to cars, that's one thing that I am proud to drive a very nice automobile. And I know that when I'm going up to that appointment, that person is automatically judging me. They're going to judge me based on the way I look. I know that. And there's nothing I'm going to do about that. But if they're going to judge me based on what I drive, like, there is something I can alter about that. I don't drive a good car because I want people to know that I'm successful. I drive a good car because I know I deserve it. And I haven't always driven a good car. So I bought myself a good car as a gift, as a reward to myself. But when I go up to that appointment, I know it's going to be a conversation piece. I know they're going to want to talk about it, and they're automatically going to score me. Like, fuck, if he can afford that car, he must be doing
All right.
that.
Well, what the fuck are you driving now? Don't be,
No, I
what,
mean,
you
it's
driving the fucking Batmobile? Like,
He's
what's
driving a
going on here?
submarine. He's literally pulling up in a
I
nuclear
pulled in a
submarine and pointing his missiles directly at the listing.
So last
No
year I
wonder why
bought
he's
a
doing 300 million.
2021 Model S. It's a 6-figure car, not
What is that? What is that?
Tesla.
Okay. I don't know anything about cars.
So there's a
Tesla,
refresh
that's
on
nice.
that. I mean, it's not like in your luxury. I had Mercedes, 2 Mercedeses before that. But I bought my first Mercedes when I was in the military. And a lot of people don't understand that either. It was a nice car, but it was fucking old and had a ton of miles on it. I just keep my shit in really top condition and looking good. So when I was in the military, I was driving around in a Mercedes C300, which is like their lower end, but it's still a Mercedes where people are like, fuck, that's a nice car. It's like, fuck, I actually only paid 30,000 for it and I had 80,000 miles on it, but it looks nice. Then I bought another Mercedes and then ended up treating myself to the Tesla. But it's one of those, I kind of struggled with it a little bit. And I have a good friend who when I was thinking about buying the car, I was like, I don't know if I have that and I roll up to an appointment, there might be some people that are like, I don't want to work with this guy because he's already making too much money. So I'm like chatting with another friend, my buddy Matt. He's a running partner of mine, and we're going back and forth. And it was also on the same conversations of like buying a really nice watch. I rock a Garmin. I'm always appointments. It's
Okay, that's where we
Garmin.
differ here. I'm a watch guy. You're a car guy. All right.
Yeah. So, and I thought about buying a really nice Rolex or Tag or whatever it was. As when I first sold my first $1 million house, that was the gift I wanted to give to myself. This is the gift.
Don't get a Tag though. Get a Rolex.
But I'm talking to my buddy Matt about it, and I was like, I just don't want people to think that like when I buy this nice stuff that automatically they're gonna rule me out, and I just don't want to go in there like flashing my shit. And he's like, you know what, man? He's like, there are people that are gonna think that, and if they think that about you, they're probably gonna think some other negative things about you, and it's not gonna be a real ideal fit for you. But you're gonna have the people that see that and they support that, and they're like, damn, you deserve that, and you should have bought that for yourself. And so that's, again, where my mindset goes, where if there's someone that does not want to work with me because I have a nice car or the way I look or whatever it is, they're just not a fit. And that's okay, because there's plenty of other agents for them to choose from. But it unlocks my time to where I can focus on the people that are the right fit.
I agree with you that when you roll up to a listing appointment in a luxury car, that it does bring about an immediate perception of you. Like, I think it's extremely necessary. I was door knocking and cold calling in Beverly Hills, as a 25-year-old, and I was rolling up to these places in a Honda Accord, and then I eventually leased a 5 Series. Nothing changed in terms of my results, but I felt honestly way more confident rolling up to these houses in that, because these people, $6 million houses, $10 million houses, which I had no business door knocking, by the way. It was just for the team I was working under. But I would even they would just open the window, look at this, Honda Accord from, high school, basically.
Especially where you are, Eric. Like, that's like, and
you had to be in a suit. Like, all that matters. Like, we've had James and David from $1 Million Listing on, and the way they talk about door knocking and how they present themselves, that really matters. Like, look at Dan O'Neill. He's always in a suit. He's trying to bring about this luxury presence, basically. And I think that does help with the overall brand. And also it's, in unison with your brand on video too. Like, your videos are so clean, your quality is incredible. Your editing's great. Like, everything about your brand is kind of, cohesive. So I think that makes sense. I don't think that's the wrong take. I think people like to say, oh, it doesn't matter, wear whatever you want. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, for some people it works. Now, Shane, what if you drive a Subaru but wear a Rolex? Just asking for a friend here.
Your
You're just contradicting.
your priorities are backwards.
Your seller's head would be in a pretzel at that point. They would think the Rolex was stolen.
I hope you're going off road.
What if you wear 2 Rolexes on each wrist?
Okay,
one
now
on
that's
each
a different
wrist.
story.
Now it's not stolen. That's not, you don't luck out.
On the car thing, though, there's another observation that people make, and it might not be the type of car, how nice it is, but the next tier is the cleanliness of the interior. And I don't know if this is something you guys, your cars
fantastic.
look like. But if you look at mine right now, it's fucking pristine. I get it detailed every other week. The inside, I don't carry shit in there, because I know if someone takes a peek in my car, whether it's a buyer or a seller, or they just happen to kind of glance at the car, they're going to judge me based on the cleanliness of that. And if my car is a disaster, they're thinking, fuck, this transaction is going to be a disaster. I don't want to work with this guy. So if you might not be able to afford a super expensive car, just make sure you can afford to keep it clean.
Let's take a back step here. I mean, I could have bought something, higher than a Subaru. If you look at the inside, it's fully loaded. I mean,
it's fully loaded.
It's
got a radio in it.
A lot of respect for Subarus if you live in Washington State.
I mean, I live in Canada, right? There's no sense me getting something that's not going to survive the winter here, boys.
Yeah, no, it's a different country, I think.
I would always make sure I would always keep my car clean if I was taking a buy around, but I would always leave a couple agent detail reports in the front seat to kind of make it look like I was seeing other houses. Just to give them the perception that I was more busy, or that they could look at something while I was driving them.
Yeah.
So
I would carry bands of $100 bills just in the passenger seat, just so they know.
Just a bunch of keys to make it just look like
and a bunch of
lockboxes
and sold signs.
A bunch of sold signs, and just uncashed checks, like you're Happy Gilmore. Huge checks.
That's so funny.
Shane, let's get into your content real quick.
Yeah.
Because you do coach with Tom Ferry, you do coach with Jason Pantana, correct?
Yes.
So your content, I love. It's super educational. Your hooks are fantastic. You'll say something like, here's why home orientation matters. Stuff that's like actually very educational,
Mhm.
but you'll also dive into some of the goofy skits, like that really funny one where it's like that scene from The Shining.
Yeah.
You're hacking down the door and you're trying to just get, feedback from the other agent. I love these.
Destroyed it.
So, what are you learning in these coaching sessions? Like, what are you and Pantana talking about, and kind of what's your goal with your real estate content right now?
So Jason's been a wealth of knowledge, and he's been our second coach with Tom Ferry, I believe. So his approach to digital marketing is I mean, he's the GOAT for a reason, but he's really tactical and then also strategic as to what we should be doing. So the reason my content has now shifted into buckets, or 5 different buckets is essentially what our content is because of Jason, because he essentially conducted an audit on my Instagram and went through. And it's during like a live chat, so we're watching, and he's going through. He's like, I actually don't know what the fuck you do, like what your style is, what you're going. He's going through my feed, and it's like, well, yeah. He's like, if I had to categorize you, he's like, in his little bomber jacket, he was like, I would just say you're a guy that's spontaneous and doing some fun stuff here and there. I was like, yeah.
Did he say candidly? That's one of his favorite words. He'll say candidly.
I don't even want
exactly.
to know what he'd say about me then.
Algorithmically, I can't even say it.
Yeah, algorithmically. Exactly.
Dude, just say, yeah.
So hey, that's a lot of syllables.
There's at least 10 of that one. But he was very upfront about, look, man, you need to get into different buckets, and we need to start categorizing your content. Because he's like, when I go through, I want to see the things you do, and I want to see consistency. And I'm a super coachable guy. So as soon as I heard that, I was like, copy. And I had my video guy with me, and we're taking notes. We established our 5 buckets, and then that is the only content we do. It has to fit in one of those buckets. Otherwise, we're not doing it. And Jason really helped us with that. He's also given us a lot of feedback on the things we do. He's the one that like initially encouraged me to do these quick tours. And now like you see them everywhere. And I fucking hated doing the quick tours. I was like, I don't want to be the quick tour guy, dude. Like, I think I'm pretty funny, and we put a lot of effort behind our content. Like, I want to be the guy that's like going over the top for theatrical cinematic masterpieces that are done in 2 minutes, not a guy that can just walk through a house in 60 seconds and, get that done. And of course, like, now it's one of those pieces that is super easy for us to do. It's highly efficient. And it's exactly what I needed to do for my listings, because I will take 30 to 40 listings a year. So I used to do a custom video for every single one. And it's really, really hard to come up with really creative ideas for all of those listings. So the quick tour was the perfect solution for that. Still able to film it, still able to make it really engaging, and then also provide value from the seller's perception, and then also get us a little bit more exposure for our buyer pool.
What do you mean by the quick tour? Like, you'll hook them in with something and then do a quick 40-second reel on it? Like, explain to us what that looks like.
So it's a lot of speed ramps in the view. So it's essentially, and we try to loop it too. So I'll be in the front of the property, and then I'll point price, location, and then I'll wave the person in. And then we go through, and it's speed ramp, boom, front door. Maybe I'll have a piece of dialogue, and then boom, we're looking at the house, and it slows down for the kitchen, and then speed ramps into the master. And then I'm always in the frame, like doing hand maneuvers or something, like just kind of keeping it engaging. And then we'll also overlay it with text, and then trying to get it done in less than a minute. So you're seeing the house, you're seeing the content, you're seeing the theatrics of me in there. And then we're able to kind of make it loop and also still be creative. So if I start in the house like this, maybe at the end, I'll jump from the second story, and then boom, it loops right back into the beginning. But we've been having a lot of fun with those, whether we're implementing dialogue or trying to find a really clean spot to do the cut where that's where the loop is, because we do it in one shot. Like, I'll knock out a quick tour now in 30 minutes. So it's a super effective and efficient use of our time to be able to do this for every listing. Whereas before I would need 3 hours at a listing, and then also a week beforehand to kind of like think about the scripting and getting props and whatever it was for the listing video. The quick tour has been a really, really great solution to do on all of our listings. And you'll have to go through my Instagram to check it out. We do them on every single listing. I think we just dropped one last Thursday or Friday. We did a quick tour, but almost weekly we're pushing one out.
That's a cool. I like what you said there about the buckets. Like, obviously we've all kind of heard that. Jason Pantana talks about that a lot, the buckets, but to actually maybe for people who don't know where to start, like actually write out your buckets. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not 5, if it's 3, it's like, okay, I'm going to do trending content. Then I'm going to do quick home tours. Yep. Then I'm going to do analytical, and then start, categorizing them and write down ideas and do stuff like that. I think visually those things might help people a lot more if you actually write it all down and categorize it accordingly.
And what are your buckets?
So we do Savvy Solutions, which is the bucket where I'm able to, talk about text reminders or calendar, whatever it is. It's just savvy things that I've implemented that people, I thought they knew, but I guess they don't. And I love to share that stuff. So Savvy Solutions, Quick Tours, that's another one.
How to buy a Tesla.
What's that?
How to buy a Tesla, is that a bucket?
That's in our wild card category. So I did a
Okay.
review on my
Sick.
Tesla, and it's
Oh, that's cool.
500,000 views on that thing, and it's brought my account to I have a monetized YouTube account because of that Tesla video I did. Because last year when we dropped it, there was only 100 people that had the brand new refreshed Model S, so we did this video on it. So back on the tangent. So Savvy Solutions.
Yeah. Sorry, that's really cool though.
It's a pretty sweet video. Sorry, I'm trying to think. So Savvy Solutions, Quick Tours, RE 101, which is where I'm dropping information about like contracts, whatever it may be. We do skits, which is kind of like I still be able to bring in my comedic style of things. And then the fifth one is client testimonials. So when we've been dropping the like testimony with a video testimony of a client, or maybe it's a review that we put in a carousel or whatever it is. But what we have been doing for the last 3 months is I've actually been able to capture a lot of video content of clients giving me a testimonial. So that's our 5. It's social proof is the bucket, but it's client testimonials. So
do you actually have a wild card?
Yeah, wild card is number 6, where we get to throw in something that does not fit in those buckets, and it's probably going to be primarily used on YouTube, but then we will disperse it to these other platforms. So like I also did a review on my Tesla roof racks. That one, also got very, very good traction.
I'd rather watch paint dry than watch that video.
It's pretty good, man.
Tesla roof racks?
I'd rather drop a bowling ball on my foot.
Sounds horrible. Maybe cut out the wild card bucket.
But we've also a wild card has been I met with a custom home builder, Joyo Homes.
Oh, that's cool.
Local here,
Yeah.
and we did a 12-minute video with her talking about the new development that they're doing. So that's a wild card for us because it goes to YouTube, and we've been able to chop it up and put it on our other social channels. But primarily, if it does not fit in one of those 5 buckets, we're not doing it. And so anytime I have an idea, I have to figure out what bucket it goes in. Otherwise, it's discarded. But our buckets are pretty spread across the board, where it's pretty rare that I do have an idea and it can't categorize in one of those buckets. Oftentimes it could go in 2. We just have to figure out which one. And it's typically, is it a savvy solution or is it an RE 101? Because those do somewhat blend a little bit. Quick tours, those are pretty obvious. Social proof's really an incredible thing to do. If you can, it doesn't have to be a video testimonial, but it can be a screenshot of a review someone wrote on you on Google and then post it, because what it's doing is letting other people know that you're actually good and people actually do care about you enough to write about it. And then skits, that's just shit I love to do. It's really where most of my ideas live. And we've just had to kind of throttle away from that because, everything can't be skits. It has to actually be about somewhat a little bit real estate. And there's audience that we're trying to attract and all these other things.
How do you know what bucket you're going to be doing?
So every Monday, my video guy and I, we have an email. It's called the MPOA, so Monday Plan of Action. And in that email, we talk about what we're releasing for the week and then what we're filming on that week. So every Wednesday, I have a block from 10 to 2. So today we exchanged the filming block for this. So just like you're applying,
Thank you,
Matt,
Thank you.
pulled off my video guy who's on
My appliances are a little more.
You
important
guys
than
are
that.
real heroes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My wife's pissed.
Yeah,
all right.
mine too. Tell me about it. But so every Wednesday we film 10 to 2, and on that Monday we're going to know exactly what we're filming for this week, and we try to go in a cadence. So we try to not duplicate the same bucket before. I'm not trying to go like out of my 5 buckets. I'm not trying to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then repeat. It's going to be 1, 3, 5, 4, 2, 3 in that kind of sequence. But we try to get away from doubling up on the same. Like I'm not going to do a skit to skit. I'll do a skit and then an RE 101 and then maybe a skit. So offer some sort of flexibility in what we're releasing, but also have us defined enough to where we have the discipline to know like what we're filming and what we're editing and what we're going to release.
We try to do that too, even for this podcast, Matt. Like we don't want to have 4 social media savvy people on in a row, because then you're kind of hammering in the same point to the audience. We do that with BAM's content. Like I don't want to post 5 clips in a row about Instagram strategy or YouTube strategy. We need actual real estate news and clips about other agent tactical stuff. So I think, varietizing, a Pantana word right there, your actual content is a very, very good move.
I think you have to, because if you do not, then you fall into a single category of what you are, what you do. So if you're continuously putting out funny content and that's all you do, like you're just going to be the funny guy in real
Well,
estate.
here we go.
Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's more to us
As
than
Matt just
I'm not even
posted.
talking about you, Matt. So like this is conversations I've had with my buddy Derek, where his shit
Derek
is
Gregory.
over the top,
Yeah.
amazing, so good. And like he's kind of put himself in like not corner, but in a niche. Like that's what he does. And I think some people that do that to themselves, like they want to also be other things, but then you get too deep in this hole where it's like, I either have to do that or I have no identity. So by offering that variety, you're doing a couple of things. You're giving yourself the creative freedom to say, cool, I'm gonna do something funny, but I'm also gonna be a smart motherfucker and give you data. And then it's also letting your audience say, oh, he's funny and smart. And then you're also attracting two different audiences to bring in that can merge into that singularity of person that, you know, you're trying to attract, whether it's another agent that's going to refer you or a buyer or seller that's going to be your client.
See, I think it's easier to niche down hard on something because you build an audience better that way, a really engaged audience. And then once you're niched down and people are watching and believe you and trust you, then you can start branching out once you've niched down. I think you can absolutely get backed into a corner, but I think if you take steps along the way, like us with the podcast, BAM, those kind of things that are a little more, they're not just all jokes all the time. People start seeing, okay, they're a little bit more than just the funny guy. And then you just keep sprinkling things in. And then you will at first kind of seem like you're backed into a corner, but I think you can sprinkle things in and kind of start making everything a little broader.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely am a guy that like, you know, your niche, know what you do and double down on it, do it hard. But I think if you, and I don't know, cause I don't have the audience you guys do, but if I did one thing for such a long time and everyone started liking that and followed me because of that, and then I started offering other things, I feel like there might be some people that feel slighted and that they would no longer want me because they're like, I subscribe to this guy because I want to laugh. I don't want to learn anything about a fucking mortgage. I'm out.
Yeah.
Roll, right?
Look
I mean,
at my
no
entire-
doubt you have to do what brings you to the dance forever.
Yeah.
That's what brought you to the dance. And that's what Eric's done for the last 7 years. And
Yeah,
now he's branching out.
Yeah, the entire Broke Agent brand for the first 5 years was nothing but memes and videos and skits and that stuff. And then slowly I was like, okay, I have something else to offer. I could, you know, not teach agents, but talk about how to improve your social media and articulate that in a funny way that's specific to agents. So then I started peppering like ebooks but just to my story and everything.
They're great.
And then
everyone.
Thank you. Yeah. Download the ebooks, link in the description to those. But it is, you know, doing it mindfully. It's not all of a sudden making a content shift out of nowhere. It's peppering it in slowly and then building up that sort of trust and giving them real value. Like if I just said, okay, now here's a $500 course out of nowhere, people would be like, well, what the hell? I haven't heard anything about this. Like you don't even know what you're talking about. Why would I buy a course? But if I start doing ebooks and start talking about it in podcasts and start going on clubhouses and start really kind of evolving the brand, that's when you build that trust.
So question: 7 years? You're doing the memes for 7 years, was it?
Yeah. Not
So
just memes, but
if you could go back in time, would you have done what you're doing now sooner? Meaning you're offering variety. No.
Because he built the audience so big. He built it so big now.
Back then it was a different landscape too. Humor was not this omnipresent thing that it is now in real estate. Humor was literally the lighter side of real estate and the broke agent. And there was no one else on Instagram that was even remotely touching it, because in 2015-16, there was a fear for, if I do anything humor related, my clients are going to think I'm a moron.
Yeah.
So I think the conditioning of the entire real estate audience also happened in that span. But I can't just jump out the back being like a social media guy or a marketing guy, because I didn't even know what I was doing yet. Like I had to learn all this stuff. This all comes from experience, right? Like I was building the email list back then. I was figuring out how to get more followers, figuring out how to get more engagement, but I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning. This was all trial and error.
The thing is like you can also watch people who have really done it in the public eye, like, and you can laugh at some of the, but like, look at Taylor Swift, like what she's done. She was the poppy country girl, and then she started. I'm a Taylor Swift fan. She started sprinkling in pop music through, more pop, and then eventually she said, "Hold my fucking banjo," and she just went all pop with like, the Reputation album or whatever. Eric, your fiance would know
Yeah.
all the albums. Or even someone like Rob Deerdeck.
Yeah.
He's a skateboarder, then went to funny guy on TV, and now he's like complete inspirational businessman. It can be done.
I mean, look at Dan O'Neill right now is making a pretty apparent transition.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
he
put on some glasses, and now he's
he
like
put
a
on,
whole new guy.
exactly. He put on the glasses. No, but he came back like revitalized from a Tom Ferry conference. It was just like, we are entering a new phase in this market right now that just me doing this funny content. Like I need to be more serious. I need to figure out what's going on, with my real estate team. I need to start doing masterminds. I need to start like putting out way more serious educational content.
Right.
And I think people respect it. Like as much as you say people might feel slighted, like, oh, the content has shifted a little bit. Of course, there's going to be 10% of your audience that is like, well, I'm not following this person for this reason. But
It's probably
people want to see evolution.
You start to notice that people follow you for you more than just kind of what you're portraying to them.
Because if you keep doing the same thing, like if I was not even evolving with memes and into reels, like if I just kept doing the same thing over and over again, just on the broke agent page, people would get sick of that. And I feel like that's even happening now, like you just have to keep kind of changing, trying different styles, adding different music, different captions, that type of thing.
Yeah. Then like you said, natural evolution, which is pretty cool. And what you were saying, Matt, like people will probably get behind that and appreciate it because they're able to see like the natural progression and growth of this person. So it's definitely a really cool, interesting take on that. I appreciate you.
Like you should see what I'm gonna be. I've told this in a lot of my talks. Like everything you've seen of me is one dimensional so far, and I'm just stoked for the next. I haven't even got started yet.
So we got two more dimensions to go, or what?
We got probably like we're going like 4D.
4D.
Yeah.
Damn. The evolution of Leonetti.
There's gonna be a whole
4D.
fucking documentary.
Yeah.
4D.
Yeah.
Well, Shane, 4D. This was a fantastic podcast. Dropped so much knowledge from nuclear submarines to team building to your systems. I love how many systems you have. Like you have a certain day that you're recording all these blocks. You have your red receipts on. Like people can learn a lot from your content and learn a lot from this podcast just because you're so dialed, and you probably took a lot of that from the Navy, obviously, of just how calculated you are with all this. So thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
No, appreciate you guys again for having me on and having the conversation and allowing me to talk more than you guys, which is probably hard for you to do.
No, this is the point of the podcast though. So Shane, where can the people follow you so they can follow along with all your content? And I know you got a podcast coming up soon, so we'd love for you to talk about that and where they could find that also.
Yeah. So I think primarily we hit Instagram, and it's just all my handles are at my name. So it's at Shane Burgman, BURGMAN. And so Instagram, we're heavy on. Facebook a little bit. TikTok, my video guide goes on there. LinkedIn, we have a good presence, mainly because of what Eric said. And I think like 2 or 3 blogs ago, I think you had talked about
this, Eric.
Yeah,
me.
Oh, wow.
Undertapped, underutilized content.
You're doing it.
Amount of people versus the amount of content that they're putting out there is a huge delta. So lots of opportunities, essentially what Eric said.
Correct.
I listen. So LinkedIn, and then YouTube, which we have on there, and then our podcast is called Impractical Brokers, and that will be on every.
That's a good
platform.
one.
It is a great name.
Can I be on it, or how does that go?
Maybe, man. We have an application. Just check out. You gotta a big follower page.
I'll submit.
But that'll be on October 31st. We'll be releasing our first episode.
Oh, are you gonna be in costume?
It's gonna be a spooky one.
Okay, I love it.
But yeah, that's fun.
Amazing.
But thank you guys, man. I really, really appreciate both of you.
Amazing. Well, go check out Impractical Brokers as well, go check it out now, because this is going to be released when you release that
Monday,
same day.
not Monday, right? Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking Monday.
Here we go. Big. Love it. Thanks so much, Shane.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Shane.
See ya.
The Broke Agent presents Over Ask Podcast.